Politically? Well, are you trying to fix a broken system, say? Where to start?
Are you forming a party?
Yes, forming a political party. We're going to run candidates in each of the neighborhoods to the best of our abilities, because there's way fewer candidates, position candidates, than there are neighborhoods. So we're going to have to group a bunch of neighborhoods together. But we are looking for neighborhood candidates, and we're looking for good candidates for mayor, which I also will offer myself as candidate for.
And how many candidates would you like to run on the party slate? Would you do a full slate with 10, or you
Yes,
think
I'd like to do a full slate, yes.
full slate? And does the party have a name?
Yeah, it's called Vancouver Citizens Voice.
And has it been registered?
The city knows about me.
Yeah.
They say that we don't have to officially register it till just about 6 to 8 weeks before the election. But we do actually have a bank account under Vancouver Citizens Voice, and we'll be able to accept donations as soon as we get a finance committee together to oversee the money.
And what's prompted you to get this thing launched?
Well,
like, what are the origins of it?
Well, you know, the NPA was never really a party of and for the people. And Vision Vancouver seemed like they were, but they're not. And Copes basically allow themselves to be folded into that particular wrong direction, I would call it that. So there's room up the middle, and there's a need for somebody in a group to take care of the actual electorate of Vancouver, as opposed to just special interest groups, which is what we have going on now.
Well, what types of principles would underlie this party?
Principles would be neighborhood representation is the main principle. I would advocate for a ward system. In fact, you can institute a ward system simply by bylaw, as a matter of fact, according to the charter. Electoral reform, in terms of who can donate to political parties, including donation limits, as well as a universal limit over the total amount that can be spent. Where to go from there? From electoral reform to single transferable vote, so you're not stuck between an either-or situation. I just read a little article a second ago that a third of people who vote against somebody. They're not voting for somebody; they're voting against somebody. So it's not really, you don't really have a choice right now the way the system's set up.
One of the things is the Greens have decided not to cooperate with Vision and Cope in this election campaign. Are you welcoming Greens into your party?
Yeah, if the Greens can handle me, they're welcome.
And what's your background, Gerry?
Well, I was born in Quesnel, although both my parents were born in Vancouver. And I went to grade 1 in Henry Hudson. And then I went to elementary school all throughout the province and ended up back in the Vancouver area at 10 years old, where I eventually graduated from Centennial High. Went to SFU. I sat on the Senate there for 2 terms. Graduated from there in 1984. And got married, raised a family. I run a limousine business. Not married anymore. I've got two adult girls who are doing excellent, I might add.
And can you identify any of the people who might run with you on the slate or who've expressed interest in being candidate?
I have several expressions of interest, which means I can't name them right now.
Okay. And do you have a time for a nomination meeting, or?
We'll be looking hopefully no later than mid-September.
And what would you say
Sooner
to people
who
might say there's a big difference between Gregor Robertson and Suzanne Anton? Suzanne Anton is a free enterprise alternative, and Gregor Robertson is someone who's supporting the environment, and there's lots of choice in this campaign. What would you say to them?
I see you laughing almost when you ask that question, and I'm almost laughing answering it. It's like, what is the difference? Suzanne Anton, I like tall buildings. Gregor Robertson, rezone, 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 all tall buildings. Bike lanes. The Hornby bike lane vote was unanimous.
How do you feel about the bike lanes as someone in the limousine business?
I have no problem with sharing the road with cyclists, but bike lanes aren't sharing the road. Bike lanes balkanize the space. They're complex, confusing, and actually dangerous to bikers and automobilists and pedestrians as well. There's a concept called shared space that would work wonderfully on Hornby. It's promulgated by a Dutch road engineer called Hans Monderman. And basically it just involves slowing the traffic down and opening up the streets, taking away all the barriers to interaction between cyclists, pedestrians, and automobiles. And because of the necessity to interact on a human level, for some reason they work.
What about the Brevard Bridge? Would you advocate getting rid of the grade-separated bike lane there?
What I would do with the Brevard Street Bridge is get those really heavy barriers off, too sweet, put up steel railings, and fix the merge on Pacific. The merge on Pacific is still a disaster area. And those barriers, I do believe, are structurally damaging that old bridge.
And what about the Dunsmuir bike lane?
Shared space again.
Yeah.
On the actual Dunsmuir viaduct, they're not that bad. In fact, you know what I would do is somehow fix the entrance to Citadel, what do they call it?
Citadel Park?
Citadel Parade, they call it.
Yeah, that's
Citadel
right.
Parade, yeah. Mm-hmm. Those stoplights are bad, so close to the other stoplights that they cause accidents. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was beside a car that hit another car because he misread which light was green and which light was red for him, which light was his light.
What about the George and Dunsmuir viaducts? Do you think they should go or stay?
Stay, absolutely. The only reason for taking them down is a real estate play.
What about Falls Creek Flats? Do you think there should be rezoning of Falls Creek Flats for more residential, or would you rather keep the flats for industrial uses?
Not completely up to date on that. I'd have to do my homework on that.
Any other issues you'd like to talk about? Anything I neglected to ask? Police budgets, library budgets?
Yeah, library budget's underfunded, police budget's overfunded. I have a problem with the logistics of the nighttime club closings on Granville Street. They seem to think that keeping Nelson Street closed is a good idea, yet during the Olympics, when they had far more pedestrian traffic and even more vehicle traffic downtown per road that was open, because a lot of road was closed downtown, and it worked. And yet, when they close this, they're causing a lot of gridlock downtown.
Are you talking about the Robson Street closure? You mean by Robson Square, or are you talking about Nelson?
I'm talking about the club closings on Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. Yeah. Nighttime after 10.
The late closing.
Yeah, the late closing.
I thought you meant the closure.
Yeah, the party closure. Yeah.
What about the closure of Robson Street by Robson Square? Do you think that should stay, or do you think it should go?
I think that street should be open.